In this video, I pose a question. Is the Pennsylvania State Police a Jesuit organization? Yes or no? Now, we associate the word Sharia law with the Muslims, but the Catholics have had their own version of Sharia law for a long time. Now, I guess we all know about the Crusades. It was screwed up back then. Typical madness. In the name of God, the Christians were killing the Muslims, and the Muslims were killing Christians, all in the name of God. And back then you had two options. If you were captured by the Muslims, either you convert to Allah or die. And if you're captured by the Catholics, it was either convert to their God or die. So I think the world would be a better place if they didn't have this something to fight over. Leave it at that now. Before I continue here, see here, I see no difference. This here, with this American flag with that thin blue line, that's a corporate gang sign. We're heading back to the Dark Ages. Isn't it a coincidence that this flag began trending around the same time this one did? They complement each other. It's lunacy. This here, I said, this is dangerous. So I call this a corporate gang sign. Now, speaking of gang signs, I want to examine this this emblem that's sewn on the uniform of a state trooper. Now, people will look at this superficially and say, "Oh, that's just an emblem, to identify, that it's a state trooper." It goes beyond that. Now, one thing I'll show you here. This is the Pennsylvania coat of arms. Take note, state color is blue. But however, in that emblem, it's in red. It's different. It's not the same. Now also, you see this decoration here? Some might look at it and say this is a pretty decoration. No, it has a function. Now when it comes to heraldry, see here, this is like the blueprint. Everything on this patch has a place, and where it's placed, then it describes its function. For example, down here on the bottom would be a model, so then that means that the word trooper would be their model. But now, if you take notice, you see on both sides, it's called a supporter. Well, even though there's the two horses as supporters inside, but there's another supporter, this ring or starburst. Now, throughout history, that starburst was used. Now, here's one from the city of London. See the coat of arms? And, by the way, see the word police? Well, that comes from the word policy. So a police officer is actually a policy officer. He's there to enforce corporate policy. But this ring here is it's not just pretty decoration, it has a function. Now here it is with the American Legion. There you'll find that starburst again. Now you have it in this now this might be a button of some sort. The same starburst, but now the motto has changed. These soldiers of the law. Well, the state police, they have to memorize a thing called the Call of Honor, where the state police trooper calls himself a soldier of the law. And I mean, that gets me. A soldier. Was there a war? Do we have a declared war going on? If there's soldiers, well, then who's the enemy? It appears to be all of us. Here's another one from the Fraternal Order of Police. Again, the starburst. I found one from North Carolina. This is from an officer's military uniform. Now this is almost an identical starburst around it. Now some might say this is just a fancy decoration that's been around a long time. No. Look at this one. Here's one from a Nazi medal. Now obviously they give medals out for bravery or some kind of important deed. And even the color stripes on the ribbon, you know, tell the story or identify what kind of medal this is. Take notice, there's the starburst. Now we have this one. This is an SS officer. So you can tell by the skull and crossbones on the lapel. Look at this. There's the starburst. Now we're making a big deal about removing the Confederate flag and tearing down some statues of Robert E. Lee. Well, if this starburst is associated with the Nazis, what the heck is it doing on the patch for a state trooper? You got to do a reality check. That's not a harmless decoration. Now, it's no secret that Himmler patterned the SS after the Jesuits. That's no secret. Oh, look at this. Now there's looks like a lapel pin. Again, the starburst. That's the supporter. I interpret that as it's the Jesuits are supporting the Nazi organization, the Nazi party. These are not just pretty decorations. I mean, I could show you pictures where high-ranking Catholic priests were all chummy and shaking hands with Nazi officers. Now look at this one. This is the emblem for the Jesuits. There's the starburst. See, they like to hide things in plain sight. You know, knowing that the average person is too dumb and stupid to pick up on any clues. On the side, oh, you'll even find it here. Now, the favorite word of a police officer is a device. I remember I was reading one court case where they confiscated a dildo at a crime scene, and then during the testimony they described it as a erotic device. I guess that sounded impressive. Well, here we have this device here to hold the Eucharist, and there's in form of the starburst. Now, how about this one? Now, again, this looks like some kind of pin. I don't know if this is officially, you know, sanctioned by the state police. It must be, you know, what's in the center. And it says here, if you can't run with the big dogs, stay on the porch. Well, during the 60s and the 70s, they referred to the police as pigs. So now I guess the state police have given themselves a slang name, big dogs. I guess then the local municipal police officer, he'd be a little dog. Anyway, on a side note, during a vehicle stop, I recommend that you always be polite and courteous, talk to a police officer with respect. You stay focused on why you were being pulled over. Because in an instant, that police officer can turn into the bully monster. I mean, these guys go to the police seminary to get self-radicalized, and they think their badge is a steroid patch. So in an instant, I said, they can turn into a vicious dog. Well, I'll leave it at that. Now, I want to go to this picture here. Now, this is a snapshot from someone recorded a graduation ceremony for the Pennsylvania State Police, and they uploaded it on YouTube. And see, in 1959, let me switch here a second. In 1959, I guess this guy here, this Colonel Frank McCarthy, sounds like a good Catholic name. He recommended that the training school its name be changed to Police Academy. Well, I go one better. I call it a police seminary. I said this is where these young cadets, they go to this place, and it's has a religious atmosphere, to rituals and procedures, protocol. And they said they get self-radicalized, and they're all this brotherhood, this fraternal order business. Now, government loves to use generic terminology. This guy, he's just a mere reverend, or they identified him, or is it just a chaplain? Nope, this guy here is a Catholic priest. And I bet a nickel, this guy is a high-ranking Jesuit. I see how he has this lapel pin. You can't identify from the video what it is. I mean, it could just be nothing. Now, I know politicians, they like to have that a little small pin of the United States flag on the lapel. And it could be that this guy's wearing the United States flag. Don't know. But anyway, I bet a nickel, this guy's a high-ranking Jesuit. And this guy here, he's the guy in charge. Now, right now, this guy was holding his hat. This guy, well, he might be the top executive officer, you know, in the state police. Could be the colonel. But anyway, right now, at this very moment, he's just a stage prop. This guy's in charge. He's working behind the scenes. He's the guy, you know, that's pulling the strings. Okay. Take this one here. Now, this is from patrooper.com. So it's very enticing. I mean, you know, why join? Am I qualified? Academy Life. Contact a recruiter. Apply now. Well, the first picture they have is a nostalgic picture, like from maybe the 60s, early 70s. You can tell by the uniforms and even the sidearms. Now, if you take notice, they're all young white boys. Now, probably this is a group of a graduating class. Let's suppose it is. Well, out of this graduating class, how many of these young white boys were Catholic? And out of them, how many were former altar boys? Can you imagine that? A former altar boy with a gun. What a thought. And if let's say a few of them were altar boys, how many of them were molested by the local priest and are sharing a dark secret? I mentioned that. I'm going to sidetrack a minute here. Okay. Now, see, not only is the state police a Jesuit organization, so is the courts. And that's the Bar Association. It's an acronym for the British Accredited Registry. They're patterned after Catholic protocol with their traditions and you know, even their use of Latin, and down to their titles of nobility. Well, you know, I like these. Some priests, it's the most holy reverend, or you know, all these fancy titles of nobility. And the men in black, just like a Catholic priest, the men in black. Now, of all them judges, I'd like to know how many were Catholic, and as far as the males, how many of them were former altar boys. Now, here's a picture from a local paper from 1985. And the majority of judges that were sitting on the bench, not only were they Catholic, but they all belonged to the same parish. They're, you know, huddled around the parish priest. And even former judges. Yeah, two. It was listed down here. There was two other ones. So I guess it's not a requirement that if you're going to be a judge in this county that you have to be a member of that parish. So my other question, of all these judges, how many were former altar boys when they were little, and how many of them were molested by the dearly beloved priest, and also sharing a dark secret? Now, the vehicle code, I refer, that's the blessed vehicle code. Well, this vehicle code is issued to a police officer, and to them it's like their gospel, their holy Bible. Well, if that be the case, then it should have the nihil obstat imprimatur right on the first page. Now, you as a motorist, you're not issued a copy of this vehicle code. See, at one time the Catholic Church, they had a list of forbidden books. And at one time, it was illegal for you, as just the private individual, to be in possession of a Bible. You get in big trouble. It was only for the priests. Now, you as a motorist in Pennsylvania, you can obtain a copy of this book, Pennsylvania Driver's Manual. And on a side note, anytime you see the word Pennsylvania by itself, that is referring to a private corporation. You know what I call this book? It's a plastic banana. It contains a lot of nothing. All right. So now, my question, is the state police a Jesuit organization? And are they practicing the Catholic version of Sharia law? Hey, I'm not a Catholic, but if you're a Catholic, go for it. You have a constitutional right to believe whatever. I mean, if someone is trying to slither into my life and force their Catholic views on me, then we got a problem. Now, we all heard about the separation of church and state. That's impossible. Now, what you're looking at is a Roman coin. Obviously, a coin has two sides. You have the church on one side and the state on the other. Now, the state, or the churches, always use the state to do the dirty work, to kill people. And throughout history, sometimes the church was the dominant, and then the state's the dominant. And then, but they are inseparable, because one side cannot exist without the other. They share the same elements. And the elements is serving corporate entities, entities of fiction. And today, corporate entities, such as, say, the Water Authority, or the Parking Authority, or even the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, they're identified as persons. So they are the gods of Rome. And see, in Pennsylvania, being a Commonwealth state, we used to be under common law. Well, now we're under Roman civil law. That's why we have codes and statutes. That's like in 1936. The school law was changed to the school code in Pennsylvania. But the agents of the corporate fiction, they're the mediators between the peasants and the gods of Rome. And they're given a license to rape, pillage, and steal. You know that saying that shepherd and his sheep? Well, it's actually the rancher and his livestock. We are, us humans, we are a renewable resource, a commodity, something to be harvested and exploited. So while the agents of the corporate fiction are grabbing what they can, all claiming to be, needed at this for their gods of Rome, they're stuffing their pockets on both sides. And I got to sidestep a moment. You see those Muslims over in the Middle East? They know about this. And even though I do not condone violence, but I could understand why they don't want to be converted to this and serve the gods of Rome. I'm against the corporatization of society and also the privatization of government functions. And everything today is being privatized, from the state police to the water authority to the turnpikes. It's all privatized. Continuing here. Now, when you're a free thinker, it measures the vehicle. When you pull back the facade, then you see that what's inside is entirely different. So like, how did a little chocolate bunny get inside here? Something wrong. Continuing. Now, let's look at this guy here, Alan Pinkerton. So now in 1988, I went to the state, the main office of the state police near Harrisburg, walked into the lobby, and they had this like mini museum. First thing I noticed, there was a Harley Davidson on display, and They had some old uniforms from the state police, but up on the wall they had a picture of this guy, Alan Pinkerton. And he was Irish. That indicates that he was also Catholic. But they had a caption, he was the father of the state police. Well, see, in 1905, the state police was created, and it was the first kind of in the country. Now, it's my opinion that, see here, this Anti-Pinkerton Act of 1893, well, that set the stage for the creation of the state police. They created a loophole to get around this Anti-Pinkerton Act. Now, during the by the turn of the 20th century, the Pinkertons, well, Pinkerton died in, I think, 1864, something like that. But afterwards, his agency continued, and they were involved in a lot of bloodshed, like the Homestead, happened at Homestead, and like they had the Latimer Massacre. According to the Latimer Massacre, they claimed that it was Pinkertons that were disguised as sheriff deputies. So, but at early 1900s, Pinkertons were getting a lot of bad press, to the point they were like outlaws, these hired mercenaries. Well, if you owned a corporation like in the coal fields or in the steel mills, to hire Pinkertons, that was expensive. I mean, really expensive. So, a sweetheart deal was made, where you had Pinkertons, they go to Harrisburg, and Harrisburg was like the laundromat, where they went, and they got a new name and a new uniform, they came out the other end squeaky clean. So now these corporations have the same mercenaries, but only now paid for by the taxpayers. I would say it was a sweetheart deal. See, the primary function of the state police is the same as their predecessors. Their function is to protect corporate interests, to enforce corporate policy. For example, during a bank robbery, the police come to protect the bank, to protect the money supply, to protect commerce. On a secondary level, they might be there to protect the customers, but if a few get killed, that's collateral damage. They don't care. The primary function is to protect corporate interests. Now, as mentioned, the Pennsylvania State Police was the first of its kind in the country, and then it was used as a pattern and duplicated throughout other states. What else do I want to talk about in this video? Concerning the police emblem, we also have another one. Now, the state police, they have an honor guard. Here's is during a funeral. Now, this is just a plain badge. It's not colored. I mention that because when I was in the service, I was also in the honor guard. I looked pretty snazzy in my uniform. I was in Lima Company 82, and I received my honorable discharge. Okay. For many years, I spent a lot of time down in the State Law Library in Harrisburg. Now, this section here was the law library. Down the other end of the hall was the main library. This was the law library. And a few years ago, it was closed for renovations because it was getting, the paneling was getting, maybe some leaks. Paint was peeling. So I guess this Johnson and Griffith here, they were assigned the task to do the renovations. So if you walked, this was the main entrance, you walked into the library. Off to the side here was the librarian's desk. But on a bookshelf, there was a huge collection of the Catholic canon law and various other sundry books. And interesting reading. And it was reading, that canon law was like, inside contained like a Rosetta Stone. that gave me the ability to crack the vehicle code. All right. Now, next video is going to be it's called like the free thinker, and I got to show you this one here. There's a picture of a billboard from Assembly of God, another corporation. There's their corporate logo. This must be another like corporation or sub-corporation, Rivercrest Christian School. A free thinker is Satan's slave. That's amazing. That was any cult organization, such as your these Muslims. You're not allowed to think. You just read, memorize, and recite. Don't think. And my videos, I'm not trying to educate the public. I'm trying to educate these cadets, the police officers. You know, any police officer happens to be watching these videos, because you're being duped. You know, you have these, as a kid, you put on the, you put on these superhero costumes, looking at being, I'm Batman or Spider-Man. You have all this fantasy about this police officer, being a police officer, and then, oh, you want to become one, be the hero, save the damsel in distress. If you go to these seminaries, you are not allowed to think. You have to read, memorize, and recite. So we're going back to the Dark Ages, where free thinking is illegal anymore. I mean, these people here, well, these people are hypocrites. Because this Assembly of God would not be allowed to exist during the Catholic Inquisition unless it agreed to promote Catholic dogma. Well, I think I covered everything in this video. Oh, now here's from the this is the Catholic choir. I believe it's from the West Point. We don't have a separation of church and state, or it's like I said, the concept of a separation is impossible. But it's like the two elements are getting like melted together, fused together. It's getting homogenized into one. Now, oh, we could talk about, where is it? Oh, this is another Catholic organization, Knights of Columbus. See here, they have it's a bundle of sticks with an axe. That's a fascist symbol. It was popular with Mussolini. So now, here's an organization. They are identifying themselves as a fascist organization. To me, they're a threat to a republic. See, we don't have a republic anymore. Now we are a democracy. Well, what is the word democracy? That is a word reserved for the corporate boardroom. For example, the Catholic Church, when they elect the Pope, well, they don't have voting machines in every church to let the laity pick a Pope. They're not allowed. It's the cardinals, I guess. They get locked into a room, and then they got to stay there until they pick one. So it's the corporate executives that use democracy. I mean, people today, they think they're voting for a politician. That's all, that's all dog and pony show. Now, I have to say again, a lot of these Muslims, they know about. They don't want to be Catholics and convert to the Catholic version of Sharia law. They have their own. Now here is Congress. Now what are we doing with two big fascist symbols on the wall? Now, who's this guy here? Is he like a quasi-dictator? In fact, look at Obama. He even keeps turning it. He has his head tilted like Mussolini used to. So was he like quasi-dictator? So if we are a republic, what are we doing with fascist symbols in Congress? I mean, I think this place is insane. Now, as a veteran with honorable discharge, I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution against enemies, both foreign and domestic. So I often wondered, what is a domestic enemy? Oh, we could all point to the Muslims, you know, but I'm talking about these covert agencies that they want to slither into government positions and then take control, to infiltrate government institutions. That's just been going on for a while. There's been an invasion going on. So there has to be hit the reset button. See this flag here? This is what I endorse. United States flag of peace. Any other flag, you could recycle it for toilet paper. I mean, if I was president for a day, these things here, I'd get a hammer and start taking them off the wall. This is a republic. This is. I mean, what is the United States? The Roman Empire, reincarnated. See, today they don't want you to think. They just want you to watch stupid shows on television, play video games, and play with your smartphone. No need to think anymore. The smartphone does the thinking for you. As a society, we're in trouble. Well, I think that's it for... I'm looking around here. Some topics I wanted to discuss in this video. No, I don't expect you to believe me. You do your own research. My question is the Pennsylvania State Police a Jesuit organization? I mean, is this just a harmless symbol that means nothing? Could be. I don't think so. And here it is. Same starburst. So according to heraldry, that signifies that the Jesuits are supporting the Nazi Party. So that's, yeah, it said this is all symbolic, and all symbols have meanings. And if that's true, then, I mean, how would it be if the state police came out of the closet and they were had this symbol on their uniform? Would that create an uproar? I mean, if the Jesuits were supporting the Nazi Party, then did the Jesuits infiltrate and take over our state police? Hey, I gotta say something. We need police. That's a no-brainer. I mean, a lot of crime out there. But I'd rather see us having peace officers, not policy officers. Now, like, for example, the roads. The roads are a shared space. We need rules of the road. Another no-brainer. I mean, everybody should have the right to go about their business and come home safe and sound every day. I endorse, you know, being courteous and respectful. You have to be a defensive driver. You know, if someone, I call it, I don't like someone to force me to be in their parade. I mean, if the speed limit's 35, well, don't be doing 15 or 20. That kind of irritates me, but what are you going to do? And like I said, the roads are shared space. We need, you know, do we need rules of the road? Of course we do. But the police have taken their sacred book and they use it as means to commit theft. They don't care about safety. This is all about a shakedown. Every time you get pulled over, the police officer, he wants to shake it down for as much money as he can. Because they have to, you know, they're like hunter-gatherers. Now, another video I could talk about letters of marque and reprisal. Basically, the state police was granted a commission under the letters of marque and reprisal to go about and wreak havoc on the roads, to grab what they can. It's out of control. I have the audit report, one audit report for Pennsylvania from 2012. In 1 year, they raked in over $453 million in what they call traffic citations alone. This is big business. Now, Pennsylvania got 67 counties, And since every county varies in size, then one county might have more magistrates than the other. But when you do some quick math, it averages out that every magistrate's raking in collecting over $7,000 a week in these traffic citations. This is big business. It's not about safety. And this is why they want to keep you dumb and stupid. The only vehicle code the average motorist has is by tradition, hand-me-down, word of mouth, you know. And one last thing here, getting back to this picture here. If these young white boys were Catholic going to a parochial school, well, they were being recruited to be positions in government, especially with the state police, without them even realizing it. Oh, you know, all these sermons, you know, during the mass every week, or you know, in class, it's your duty, you know, to you know, serve humanity and protect the weak. Look at this slogan: "People serving people." What does that mean? It's just an empty, that's like bathroom graffiti. It means nothing. Because what people? Is it Group A serving Group B? Or is it Group A serving Group A? Well, I just have food for thought here. It's up to you to make a decision, if you even care to make a decision. Well, maybe the next time you get pulled over, maybe something of what I said might pop in your head. You get pulled over, you're going to become a victim of Catholic Sharia law. Now, the state trooper, he doesn't want to like chop your hand off. He just wants to cut the wallet out of your back pocket. He's after your money, not your blood. But he'll shoot you if necessary. Well, until then, until the next video, any comments, leave them below. I said until the next video, we'll see you then. Now, this is like a supplement. I had to add it. The Fraternal Order Police, they should be disbanded. This is a secret society. We don't need a fraternal order. We need police. We don't need this religious cult to infiltrate the police departments. Continuing here. This guy, Hugh Hefner? Well, they should nominate him to be Pope. I mean, what is the Vatican? It's like the gilded Playboy Club with all the sex perversion going on. I don't even think Hugh Hefner would endorse molesting children. So to me, he has higher standard of morals than any Pope does. What did the big shots in the diocese or the Vatican, if they knew that there was a priest that was molesting kids, they just transferred him to another parish so he have more fresh meat at his disposal. And one last thing here, if I can find it. Now, being a free thinker, this is the preamble of the Constitution of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And when you read between the lines, just remember this. You had the Pilgrims that came over because of religious persecution, because they were being persecuted by the Catholic Church. So this preamble was written with the extended middle finger pointed at the face of both the King of Great Britain and the Pope and his entourage, saying, we don't need you and we don't want you. We have Almighty God's email address. We have a direct Wi-Fi. We don't need some sex pervert you call a priest to mediate, you know, to transfer, to be the service provider. We have direct contact with Almighty God, and He gave us blessings of civil and religious liberty, and we can humbly invoke His guidance without needing you and pay you for the services. And we ordain, we can lay hands on ourselves and ordain and establish this Constitution. Just remember, it was the Protestants, the anti-Catholics, the heretics that founded our country. We were trying to break away from the corporations of Europe, all that feudalism. It said between especially the King of England or Great Britain and the Vatican Corporation. It said the people, they were grateful direct for the blessings of civil and religious liberty. That they do not need some corporate agent to mediate on their behalf. So this was a direct, this is like, excuse my vulgarity, and I apologize beforehand, but people of Commonwealth were telling the Pope, go fuck yourself, we don't need you, or you're sex perverts. And see, but you're not allowed to think, not to like open these words up and ask questions what they meant, what was going on, the political climate. To all you Bible thumpers out there, on most Bibles, this epistle dedicatory has been removed. It's kind of censored. At one time it was the introduction or preface to a King James Bible. You know, the original, not that new, the revised version. And especially during like 1962, when the Second Vatican Council, when the ecumenical movement really was being pushed, they're trying to unify all the churches back into the fold. That's when the Protestants, which were the heretics, all of a sudden now they were called the separated brethren. How nice. When you read this epistle dedicatory, I mean, these translators, they were under fear of death. I mean, they submersed the king in a bucket full of egocentric hype. I mean, the way they were talking. So this indicates to me that the King James Bible was written under duress. That their version ended up, their translation had to please the king. But anyway. But toward the end of this epistle dedicatory, starting here where I have it marked. Okay? So they talked about popish persons, capitalized letters, whom they desired still to keep in ignorance and darkness. So it was the Protestants that were accusing the Catholic Church of suppressing truth. That's the way I interpret it. You'd have to read it for yourself. And this was a big step. I mean, this during what brought about the Protestant movement was the invention of the printing press. Now they could mass produce copies of the Bible. And well, we could talk about that in another video. To see what was happening when the king took control of the church, and that was the Church of England, then the church became subordinate to the state. Because like prior to that, for centuries, all the state was subordinate to the church. And I give the Protestants credit for that. That was like a stopgap measure. It only lasted for a while. Did you ever see that Japanese knotweed? Did you ever see that Japanese knotweed? It's invading Pennsylvania. I mean, and it won't die. You could dig it up, burn it, pour herbicide on it, and if there's one little piece of root that has a rhizome on it, a rhizome is what you would call the eye on a potato. So you got one little piece of root with a rhizome on it, and then all of a sudden, bingo, it starts sprouting again. This is an invasive species of plant, and this is my example of the Jesuits. This Catholic infiltration into everywhere. My opinion, of course. Until the next video.